And that was a bit of the experience, once the cameras were starting to roll. But we did have just incredible cast.
Welcome back to Flavor Report. My name's Joe Winger. Today's conversation is with actor George Gallagher. You've seen him on TV shows, indie films. Now he's on BET Plus, Tyler Perry's show, Perimeter. George, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks for having me.
George, tell us about the show itself. What's the collaboration like? What's the mood like on set? And tell us about your role playing Lance.
Yeah, so I will. Thank you. Working on the show is one of the gifts of my creative professional career. Armani Ortiz is the young writer, director, kind of visionary who has created the show and put it forth with Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is the executive producer. And he also directed the Tyler Perry documentary, Maxine's Baby, about Mr. Perry's life. That's doing quite well right now. And he's really a extremely talented young guy. He really invited me into his world, Joe, to kind of create whatever I wanted within certain parameters. He was very collaborative with the actors. He allowed us to rehearse, work through things, but also kind of give it our own flavor. And you just really, when you work with, I come from the theater, and a lot of, I think, actors that work in that studio tend to have that background because we can work quickly, we're autonomous, we have some process and technique, and I believe that we're able to kind of, collaborate with others in a way that's kind of immediate. In theater, you're out there in the unknown, and there's no one to cut you out, or if you have a bad moment, the audience sees it. And so actors really learn how to focus, to hyper-focus in real time. And that was a bit of the experience, once the cameras were starting to roll. But we did have just incredible cast. Most of the people came from California, some from New York, really drawn from both coasts that came to Atlanta to film and work on the show. It's a great story. It's period. It takes place in the 90s surrounding Freaknik, which was, a really popular music hip hop festival in Atlanta. The Olympics is in the backdrop when they had them here in the early 90s, and the whole city, the airport expanded. I mean, it really put Atlanta on the map as a major metropolitan city. Prior to that, it was certainly a big city, but it really put them on the forefront of everything. And so that's all happening in the backdrop. They had the first Black mayor at the time. All of this is sort of happening simultaneously. And my character, Lance, is a high-end attorney who has a very private clientele that pays him very well, and others might not take on. As I said before, their cases might be a little more challenging. He represents people who are sometimes stepping outside of the law and in the criminal world, and which makes it all the more challenging. But I also looked, back to your earlier question. I was researching lawyers that had taken on different civil rights cases, and cases that are a little more controversial in terms of dealing with the system and upholding a belief in the system. And someone like Alan Dershowitz, I watched Reversal of Fortune. He took on a lot of civil rights cases and then went and defended someone that everyone thought was a murderer. And, but the reason why he did those things, and which was kind of an underlying, or rather an overtone of that novel and the film Reversal of Fortune, was it's really about, if you believe in the legal system, and making sure that everyone has a fair and just defense, regardless of their socioeconomic background. And so there's cultural elements that certainly come into play. My character, Lance, is from a different world than Malcolm, who's one of the main characters on the show that I defend and I represent. But I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but it's a really exciting world, and people should check out the show and kind of see where it takes everybody.
George Gallagher, working on Tyler Perry's new BET Plus show, Perimeter. George, thank you so much for your time today. So now, whether it's a website or it's a social media, what's the best way to stay in touch with you? What's the best way to find out what you're working on next?
Absolutely. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's George Gallagher, the number 7. George Gallagher 7 on Instagram, Facebook, George Gallagher. You'll see my face, my picture. And feel free to follow me and keep in touch. Thanks so much.